River flooding is a slow process, but it has wide impacts when it happens. It's all about water, hydrology, and when rivers are in flood, it means they go up, and when they go up, they also spread out, and they can impact hundreds, if not thousands, and maybe even tens of thousands of people. When you look at the weather map, you see state lines and interstates, but take off the man-made objects and focus on the rivers which drain water, and in our case, on the central Gulf Coast, those rivers go into northern Alabama, Mississippi, into Tennessee, and all of that water drains down toward our direction. Now, if you take, just say, for example, a gallon of water and add a gallon on each of these tributaries that feed toward Mobile Bay, by the time you get to the bay, you're talking 10, 15, 20 gallons of water. So in other words, whatever falls upstream is magnified, and we feel it downstream. The amount of flooding does depend on how shallow the body of water is. Say, for example, a cross-section of a river. If it's shallow but the land is very flat, when that water rises, it spreads out a great distance over the low-lying land. On the other hand, if you have a very deep river channel, if it's very deep and the water is, say, for example, not near the peak of the channel, it has room to rise without significant flooding unless you live right on the banks of the river. And of course, the worst case is a deep channel and then low-lying land above it where the water spills over and floods a large area. The best way to keep up with river forecasts, the National Weather Service, NOAA, do a search for NOAA AHIPS. AHIPS is Advanced Hydrological Prediction Services, and it covers the entire United States. The color of the dot represents the amount of flooding or the level or severity of the flooding. If you click on the dot, what you'll find is a timeline of past conditions, forecast conditions, and also the actual height of that river, whether it's in minor flood stage, major flood stage, or no flood stage. And of course, some rivers are more shallow, so instead of seeing 20, 30, 40 feet, you may see 2, 3, 4 feet. But a flood is a flood if you live on the river banks. As you get closer to coastlines, some of the river levels are impacted by the daily tide cycle. So it wouldn't be unusual to see ups and downs and then eventually a gradual trend back down when the water recedes. But keep in mind there, you see a 0 for the height. That would be the average water level of that particular body of water. So river flooding, it can be a big deal. Be on guard, make sure you have a plan if you live by a body of water, because one day it is going to rise, it will spread. I'm Chief Meteorologist Alan Seals.